black and orange Ferrari. And green flag flies, we're racing. The Acura gets a great start from behind. 3 wide up the inside. Closing in on him here through turn number 2. Big slide on corner entry.
Here's, that's a big aggressive dive up the inside there from the Lamborghini. Some bragging rights here, I think, between the two. Look at that slide up ahead from Simpson. That thing was totally sideways, but he was able to catch it.
Fantastic stuff here in the M Cup. Big chop by the 777 car off the nose of that. Saw the corner, didn't have overlap, and went right to the apex. Checkered flag, and Adam Youngblood will win the AM race in the CrowdStrike Cup Virtual Racing League and pick up a checkered flag, a wet one here at the Huntsville Ring. Jimmy Morgan. The 4th round of the CrowdStrike Cup Virtual Racing League takes us to one of the fastest racetracks in the entire world. This place is known as the Temple of Speed. Autodromo Nazionale Monza is one of the classic Italian road courses that contests round 4 of our Pro and Am Championship in the CrowdStrike Virtual Racing League. Hi everybody, I'm Kyle Heyer, joined of course as always by DJ Clark. DJ, this is going to be a fun one today, a 40-minute race. Big grid tonight, 25 cars lined up to go racing at this incredibly fast and challenging circuit.
Yeah, incredibly fast, incredibly flowing here. A couple of chicanes to break everything up. And of course, the dreaded turn 1 at Monza, always a flashpoint off of the start. But everybody going to have to be very careful through there. But Kyle, this is going to be a slipstream battle, and it is going to be one of bravery and courage to be able to extract the best lap times from around here.
Here's a look at the track map here at Monza. The run down to the first chicane, that first corner, you mentioned it, that slipstream. It's a great passing opportunity, but it's so tight that lap 1, turn 1 is always a big challenge. Then you head through Curva Grande into the first of a couple other chicanes, and then into the Lesmos, the 2 right-handers, DJ, that lead you towards Variante Ascari.
Yeah, those Lesmos, very tricky to get right, particularly coming into the second Lesmo, and you've really got to get the run off of that exactly right to be able to get the blast down into Variante Ascari, because that's going to be a pretty prime overtaking opportunity down into that very tricky turn 7. One of the hardest corners to get right in the world. It's, well, let's call it a medium speed corner to break everything up, but if you get it wrong, the consequences are absolutely deadly.
Well, qualifying is underway here in just a moment, but of course, this is the CrowdStrike Virtual Racing League, and of course, DJ, right now, CrowdStrike Racing is involved in the Rolex 24 Hours at Daytona in the LMP2 category, working with a new team on that side of things this year, paired with a 4-driver lineup. Ben Hanley, Esteban Gutierrez, and Matt McMurray, along, of course, with George Kurtz. Right now, as last time I checked, they're running 2nd in class, and they're off to a great start in the LMP2 class in that incredibly famous and, for this year, very popular race.
Yeah, very much so. And but we've got our own superstar drivers here ready to get racing for CrowdStrike as they get themselves ready to go. And there you see them out on track for our opening 20-minute qualifying session. Drivers setting out right now to try to see what they are able to do. Open qualifying, so I think the key around here is going to be timing that draft to absolute perfection.
There's a good look at Alexandru Turtan in the number 88. He rolls down towards the first of the chicane, or second of the 2 chicanes on the first half of the lap. Should talk about Josh Staffen in the number 93, though. Currently leads in the pro category standings. The pro drivers, DJ, the ones with the white number backgrounds on the timing and scoring, and nobody's even close to Staffen right now. He's won, I think, every race so far.
He has indeed an absolute dominant performance up at the front of the field, and I don't expect any changes of that for him today. Although a little bit of a change for the drivers. We were driving around here in wet practice sessions, and now for qualifying, it looks like it's dry, so that could throw a little bit of a loop here for some of the drivers.
Yeah, the goal was to have a little bit of rain today, but of course there's an element of randomness here in Assetto Corsa Competizione, just like there is in the real world. And this re-roll here, when we got to qualifying, doesn't look like a lot of rain on the horizon. So different conditions that drivers will have to chase. But even though I was looking forward to some wet weather racing today, DJ, I like the fact that Assetto Corsa Competizione challenges drivers with unexpected conditions, even when they expected the worst.
Yeah, exactly, and you've got to basically be on your toes for the entire way around, even in the middle of the sessions, as we watch Josh Staffen here bringing his way through the Curva Grande, coming down here into the second chicane. Doesn't normally get the love that the first chicane does, but I'd actually make an argument here, Kyle, that that's a little bit of a trickier run there. The left-right flick, very, very difficult to get right. Staffen, of course, as you'd imagine, navigating it perfectly.
Yeah, you have to get aggressive on the curbs to really make good speed around here, but if you get too aggressive with them, you can pick up cut track penalties, and the gravel trap on corner exit there will snag your left side tires if you get a little bit too wide. So there's definitely a balance of effort there about how much you want to charge it versus how much you want to prioritize the exit, because of course you have the Lesmos right after that, so there's not an enormous straightaway there to gain time with the classic slow in, fast out method. It is certainly challenging, as is Ascari here, the right-left combination. This is very, very fast, and you can track out pretty wide, but that was a little too wide there for Staffen.
Yeah, he's going to probably pick up a little bit of an off track and have this lap discounted there for him, but he'll be able to keep going here and give us a good idea of the circuit as he runs down here into Parabolica, another one of those medium speed corners. Very important to carry as much speed as possible on the exit. This is one where you want to talk about slow in, fast out, because you've got to nail this run down the long pit straightaway and heading into the Variante di Rosfiglio.
And once the field takes the green flag, you'll be slipstreaming this entire way down the straightaway, speeds climbing north of 160, 170 miles an hour before hard on the brakes, down all the way to first gear here in this Acura NSX GT3 Evo, and then you're going to clip the curbs on the left and get back up underway. So Staffen so far looks very good. Tori Gilbert in the number 33. I think this is a new name with us here this week in this BMW. He runs third because Bill Strobel has just gone to the top in the CrowdStrike Racing BMW.
Yeah, a time of 1:54.190, although I think that may have included a little bit of a running in the pit lanes. We normally see times a lot faster than that. Now it looks like Kavanaugh starting to put in time. Yeah, these are not flying lap times here, I think, necessarily. These are times that were set as they came out of pit lane. So we've got one more lap to wait to see what's everybody going to be able to do under full speed.
Yeah, and Bill Strobel is one of the drivers we should keep an eye on in general, though, because he is currently second in the AM category standings, only to Vlad Dola, who is here today. So we'll keep an eye on both of those drivers as they navigate this qualifying session. Before we get too deep into this, though, DJ, why don't we talk a little bit about CrowdStrike? Of course, they work together very closely with SRO to secure all of their networks and servers on the AWS cloud platform. And CrowdStrike, AWS, and SRO America all work very closely together, and it's a perfect trifecta of technology that allows us to run real and virtual racing all the time.
Yeah, it certainly does, and we are so happy to have them back on board with SRO and to be able to have a team up like this. It's nothing short of incredible, as there it looks like there's a BMW getting it a little bit wrong going through Lesmo 1. Remember, I talked about it, the margins for error here on the exit of Lesmo 1 and Lesmo 2, both very, very narrow. You don't have a lot of room to track over the track, and so you've got to be very careful to make sure to hit your acceleration marks perfectly.
Martin Lassen, another driver we should keep our eyes on, running the fastest Audi R8 at the moment. He's the number 111 car, third in the AM standings, and that's important because ahead of him on the racetrack, but behind him in the points by 1 point, is this man, Alexander Turtan, in the number 88 Lexus. He has 47 points to Lassen's 48 in the AM championship, and right now Turtan is actually outperforming Lassen, at least on the out laps there. So we'll see how they fare in these somewhat longer laps as far as GT3 lap times go. 1:49 for Staffen as he laid down his first flyer.
Yeah, so there you go. It is a pretty long lap around here, around this circuit. There we see Turtan being able to put in a P5 position, finds himself about 2.5 seconds off of Staffen, but still a good run, as now Kumar going to be able to come up his way into fourth place. Looks like we've got a little bit of a disabled car there off to the inside. I think that may be some contact, as that car was smoking pretty heavily.
Yeah, I was trying to see if it's Bill Clark. Indeed it is, the Audi R8, and it's certainly stuck somehow in the road there, so he'll have to reset. Bill Clark, one of our pro class competitors, down at 22nd at the moment. Aaron Puckett in the 31, another pro class competitor in the Trace 3 liveried Aston Martin Vantage AMR, and heads through Curva Grande right now, about 10th off of Arup Kumar in the number 8 as it stands. This Aston, again, I always describe these British GT cars as swoopy, and indeed in the black and blue livery it looks just like that. But a little bit slow and tentative through this second chicane here, and now throttling up for the Lesmos.
Yeah, starting to bring that car up to speed, and yeah, the blue and black livery here really does a great job to accentuate the curves on the car. It looks absolutely fantastic. Aaron driving a good line through Lesmo 1, now onto the binders, coming down into Lesmo 2. Could have maybe run that car a little bit more, gotten onto the throttle just a hair earlier there, but still a good line for Aaron, and that number 31 machine now makes its way under the old oval circuit here at Monza and makes their way into Variante Ascari.
Chasing another Audi. I think that is Simon Peterson in the number 18, who has currently scored 14th on the board. But he might get a little bit of a slipstream from this orange and blue Audi up the road, and it's such an important thing here at Monza, especially in open qualifying, DJ. If this was single car qualifying, it would just come down to the driver, but your situational awareness to get you behind another car and utilize that draft, that can help you a lot here and set you in the front of the grid, which we know track position heading into turn 1 at Monza is pretty crucial.
Yeah, it very much is. The only problem that they're going to have, though, is coming through the last sector of the circuit, down through Variante Ascari and down through Parabolica. You're going to have a little bit of aero wash that you have to contend with. I think that's part of the reason why we saw Aaron kind of taking an alternate line going down through that final curve of Parabolica and making sure that they were able to avoid it. Has to take a little bit of evasive action there, though, down into the inside.
Yeah, a little awkward bump and bang there. I think he charged turn 1 a little bit too much and had to tuck in behind the Audi again on corner exit and didn't pick up that lap. That was a warm-up lap there, so this would have been his flyer, but now he'll have to basically toss that one. Daniel Kavanaugh, by the way, in the number 94 BMW with the Turner Motorsport livery on it. He's about 0.6 off of Staffen as it stands. Also on a warm-up or cool-down lap at the moment, looking for green. Vlad Dola is chasing green right now, 0.2 up on his best lap.
Yeah, 0.2 up. Vlad looking very, very strong here. He does have a pretty big gap to try to make up to the tune of about 0.7 of a second, so 0.2 not going to help him too much. Going to have to duck down to the inside there. That may even be a little bit of an off-track going down to the first part of Variante Ascari, and now going to bring his way around. Ooh, big snap of oversteer there mid-corner, and that's going to scupper what could have been a very good lap.
He was up 0.2, now down 0.3. Rup Kumar, who's just behind in the Samantha Tan Racing BMW livery. He's up 0.1 right now, heading into Parabolica. Named such because of the shape of the corner radii and how it kind of opens up tight on entry and it loosens up on exit here. Very unique corner, and it kind of causes you to ride the rim here on corner exit and shoot down this front straightaway. But right towards the end, you're going to tuck over to the right and kind of take that short run through the kink past the start-finish line and then run all the way down to turn number 1.
Yeah, all the way down in turn number 1. You've got plenty of time to be thinking about where you want to get onto the binders, exactly what it's going to be. You're going to hop onto it just before you see that vertical line, or that horizontal line crossing over the track. That's right about where you want to get onto the binders here in the GT3 cars. Maybe do a hair of trail braking coming down into the corner to just get that little bit of rotation more, especially if you are in one of the front engine BMWs here. There's going to be a little bit of inherent understeer in that car, so you're going to have to work the brake pedal a little bit more to get the right kind of turning.
I think it's interesting to note the BMWs, by the way. How about 4 of them inside the top 6? An Acura leads the way, and Audi runs 5th, but all the rest of the drivers in the top 6 are running the Bavarian Beamers there. So Aaron Puckett in the 31 runs an Aston Martin, and it's 2 more Audis and then a Lexus. So as far as the manufacturer diversity goes, this is probably one of the lesser diverse top 10s that we've had in this series. Of course, SRO in the real world here and in Assetto Corsa Competizione have balance of performance, but even with that, this is a track that's going to really benefit the cars that have a higher top speed, and it appears that the BMW has that kind of locked in.
Yeah, very much does, and that top speed has been borne out. I've seen it in a couple of different races here that BMW does have a very, very good top speed, so I'm not entirely surprised to see that. I'm also not surprised to see the Lexus up there as well. The most recent balanced performance that has been put through has seen a little bit of a resurgence for that number 88 machine here, so good to see another Lexus a little farther up in the field. One of the cars that doesn't get all that much love here on ACC, but I do have to admit it is always a striking car whenever you see it.
Striking and very aggressive looking, and it sounds great, of course, with I think it's a 4.5 or 5 liter V8 under the hood of that Lexus, and it screams. Here's a car that we know very well here at CrowdStrike Racing that is not running up towards the front right now, and that is the Mercedes-AMG GT3 Evo. and Will Thomas is running one of those such cars. And I think he might be the only one in the Mercedes here this week. And we've talked at length about, in the past, horses for courses and what particular cars are great at. This Mercedes-AMG GT3 Evo, fantastic at corner carving. But despite its kind of aggressive, kind of rear-haunched look and that big engine under the hood, it really isn't the best at the top speed. It'll get there okay, but it just doesn't really get the top end that some of these other cars have. But on the more technical circuits, it will carve and out-corner almost anything out there.
Yeah, it certainly will, and it's been a favorite, obviously, for CrowdStrike Racing in the SRO Series and for many drivers here on the sim. Hope to see it a little bit farther up in the field, as it is one of my favorite cars, and you want to talk about an absolutely tremendous sound, listening to that thing thunder on by you. I have vivid memories of, Kyle, you and I sitting in the PA booth in New Orleans, and we couldn't hear it, we couldn't see anything because of the way everything was set up, but we were sitting there playing games during practice, calling out the cars of which ones we could hear, and every time the Mercedes went by, we just looked at each other and went, Merc.
Yeah, Merc. And the other car that is pretty distinctive is the Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo, and I don't think there is a single Lamborghini in the field today, which is a little bit strange, but there is a second Mercedes, by the way, that has joined us here down towards the bottom of the field. That is the 44 of Mark Warfield. There he is. This is the non-Evo generation. This is the first generation Mercedes-AMG. Now, the Evo generations of all these GT3 cars, DJ, mostly electronics changes, and then small visual and appearance changes, some aero bits here and there, but for the most part, the performance level is fairly similar.
Yeah, pretty similar there amongst all of them, so it's not going to be too much of a change as Warfield does bring his way around. Looks like there's a Ferrari trying to move to his outside right now. I think Mark is going to be backing out of the throttle here a little bit. No, he's not. He's going to keep it planted down. Nope, there he gets out, brakes a little bit early, lets that Ferrari on by.
And that Ferrari is one of one. That is Ryan Small in the 666 car today, and wearing a very familiar shade of red on this Ferrari. Here's a car that I always think has looked amazing. It has this very smooth twin-turbo V8. Now, Ferrari, of course, this season will be sporting with Corsa Competizione in the SRO America Series, the new Ferrari 296 GTB. Very excited for that car. I think it looks amazing. I think the power plant is, and the rest of the car is probably very similar underneath, so we should expect to see it competing for wins in SRO this year.
Yeah, I think we should as well. Very excited to see that coming in to the series, into the SRO fold. A lot of new cars coming on into the series this year. Going to be very, very excited to see that. And a few of the newest entries, of course, will be matriculating their way here into ACC as well. I think it's only a matter of time before we see the likes of the Mustang GT3 as well as the Nissan GT4 coming on into the sim as well.
Yeah, I just found out that Brian Heitkotter will be piloting one of those Nissan GT4s in GT4 America. Very familiar with Brian from some other grassroots road racing series. He is a past winner in what was then the Pirelli World Challenge as well. So he's kind of having a bit of a homecoming in Nissan this year, which is very exciting. You mentioned some of those other new cars. Of course, there's a bunch of different Evo variants of cars that are on their way. And of course, the recently announced Corvette Z06 GT3, which we could expect to see perhaps sometime in 2024. And then maybe as well, the Mustang GT3, which will be coming next year as well.
Yeah, it's a very, very exciting time to be a sports car fan. Plenty of new makes and models of cars working their way on into the grid, and I know I, for one, am so very excited to get onto the road and be able to see all of them in action, and it really is just a matter of getting ready, as it looks like we've had a car that's a 331 of Mike Jensen there, one of the Aston Martins, getting things a little bit wrong coming through the second Lesmo. Let's watch and see what happened.
Yeah, first Lesmo looks pretty good for Mike Jensen, and then he gets to the second one here. It's the curb, and then, there's the 888 car that was stuck trackside and then rejoins, and big contact there. They both spin out of control, but that was a big-time incident for the 888 and for the 331. One of those rejoin scenarios, DJ, that you wish you could undo once it's happened.
Yeah, most certainly, and that's not exactly the way that you want to have any of that play out here if you are one of those drivers, and I'm sure Jensen will not be exactly happy to see that happen, but he is in 18th place right now, so plenty of room to be able to make up, and I have to say, though, pretty good position here for him at this point, so he may be able to continue to work his way up forward and see what he's got.
So Josh Staffen is the quickest on the board right now. About 2.5 minutes left here in qualifying. Kavanaugh runs second, Arup Kumar third. And then it's Vlad Dola, the leader in the AM Championship, followed by Nicholas Sommer in the Audi number 11. And Nicholas had a pretty good round last time at Suzuka, if I recall. And here he is kind of weaving his way through the Lesmos right now, the highest running of the Audis, and third in the AM category as it stands.
Yeah, third in the AM category, and I like that he's been able to carry the standard here for Audi, working his way through the field. He's going to have, I think, a pretty tall order to try to catch up to those BMWs that are up in front of him, but we'll have to see how he does. Again, the draft is going to be the great equalizer around here. I think any cars that may be a little bit down on horsepower and may not have the straight line speed, they're going to be able to work it back in because of the draft, and it should be able to keep everybody nice and close.
And the Audi is a pretty good kind of middle-of-the-road car as well, I think, when it comes to performance. It's pretty good at everything, but maybe not the best at any particular one thing. I think in the real world, at one point, the Ferrari was kind of the base car that everything was balanced around. I know some other sims have used the Audi as their base car. I wonder if the same is true here in Assetto Corsa Competizione. But Nicholas Sommer, that time through, runs his best lap of qualifying, a 150.152. And that is about 0.2 off of Vlad Dola's time. So I think unless he can go quicker on this final lap, that's going to be all he's got.
Yeah, I think you're about right on that. Just ticking down, under a minute left to go here in qualifying for all of these drivers. So now or never time for them. Some very, very close gaps there between Sommer and Arup Kumar here in particular, only separated by about 0.04 of a second in between the two of them, as Arup now tries to bring that BMW out and around. That is pushing to the extent of the limits as much as you can.
Well, he is up 0.3 on his best lap, and if he can hang on to this, he's getting very experienced with the edge of the track, but if he can keep this Delta green coming back to the stripe, he would launch not only ahead of Sommer, but again ahead of Dola as well, so he could move up an entire row if he could finish this lap as good as he started it. Also, we should keep an eye on the weather because it is dry right now, but I've been told that rain is potentially on the way, DJ, so practice in the rain, qualify in the dry. Maybe we'll race it a little bit of both.
Ooh, that could be a big change here for these drivers. Are going to have to see how they get it together. I know you and I were talking a little bit before the broadcast that rain in the first corner at Monza, that's a little bit of a recipe for disaster, but I'm sure these drivers are going to be able to cover it quite well, and it's certainly going to set up for a fascinating run down into that first corner.
Here comes Kumar across the line, and to second place, a 1:49.580, and that final sector was where he found an additional 3 to 4 tenths of time. That was a great lap by Kumar. And Aaron Puckett right now is working his way through, I think that was Ascari. Yes, it is. So he's up 7 tenths, and he can launch up into third or second place as well.
Yeah, got some time here to go as we look at Puckett, trying to see what he's able to do. Just has the run into Parabolica to go. That's another car up in front of him. I don't think that's going to impede any progress here. Looks like the line's pretty good for the number 31. Going to take it out as wide as you can. That is the standard racing line, and now it's just full power and run to the line.
4 tenths up. He lost a little bit of time in Parabolica, and he will, well, looks like he went faster, but it did not count that lap. Must have gone off track somewhere, a 150.117. That would have been good enough to launch him ahead of Nicholas Sommer, but I don't think he was able to get there. Simon Peterson is heading into Parabolica. He's up half a second. That would not quite get him to Ryan Small in 15th, but we'll see what he can do through this final corner.
All right, let's see indeed as Peterson's going to bring that car around. A little bit of a different line than we saw out of the of Aaron Puckett, but let's see if the number 18 is going to be able to pick up anything. And there you go, 16th place. I don't think that was an improvement.
It was an improvement, just not enough. It was an improvement in lap time, but not in position as he grinds to a halt there. And looks like the last driver on course, Marion Coleman, is bringing his car back around and across the line. Checkered flag, and it was no improvement there for the number 77. And this means we're about ready to kick off our race here in just a couple of moments, DJ. This is the anticipation here. I'm really excited. I love watching rain racing, especially when I'm not in it. Driving in the wet in the real world can be pretty scary. In the sim, you don't have that same fear necessarily, but it can make conditions incredibly unpredictable. And it's one of the things that I think Assetto Corsa Competizione models fairly well is rain and wet weather. So we should see drivers have to search around a little bit for grip and consider tire choice as well.
Yeah, it certainly is. And depending on when that rain starts to ease a little bit or when it does come on, remember there is a mandatory pit stop that takes place over the course of this 40-minute race. So that could dictate a little bit whether or not we see drivers try to come in early or try to come in a little bit later.
Of course, sunny skies earlier when these camera shots were taken, but of course the clouds have come over here in Monza, Italy. And of course they call this place the Temple of Speed, DJ, and it's one of those places that is almost like it's not quite ancient ruins, but it kind of has that feel to it. When you kind of step trackside here, you've got the remains of the oval in the backdrop, and of course the road course, which is still utilized today for such events like the Italian Grand Prix, but this place is steeped in motor racing history going back a century.
Really and truly. I mean, there are a few racetracks in the world that are more famous than Monza. Indeed, you say Monza to a gearhead, and they're immediately going to go to thoughts of the Tifosi rushing the track here, Ferrari screaming around, Formula One, GT, everything under the sun, bringing their way on in. Everybody knows this circuit.
Well, have a look at the cars on the grid, DJ, and what do you hear and see? There is precipitation and a lot of it heading down here on Monza circuit. So that means that by the time we get into this race, the track will be wet, and the drivers did not get a chance to test this out in qualifying, only if they had some laps in practice. So for some, this is going to be a new experience today, especially those in the M category.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a big change here that they're all going to have to watch out for. Nobody's going to be able to take this super aggressive down into turn one. I think you're going to see a lot of early braking, a lot of drivers trying to check themselves up going down into that first corner, and a lot of caution on this first lap as they try to learn what this track is doing here at this moment.
So another look here at the track map. Tell me about the trouble spots here in the rain. Of course, the braking zones are always a big challenge, DJ, but where are some other trouble spots that drivers might discover here when the precipitation starts to collect?
Well, another area, the two that you're going to have to watch out for outside of the normal braking zones where you're coming down into the corner are going to be Curva Grande and the Parabolica. And that is because the water's going to pool up there a little bit, and as you start to really pick up speed and pick up spray, your visibility is going to be limited. So as you come down into the braking zone, into Della Roggia, for example, you've got to be absolutely sure where that car is up in front of you. So you've got to be very careful about that. Again, coming through the Parabolica, that's a high-speed braking zone that you're coming down into. You've got to make sure that you are positioned and that you are able to back up your braking zone a little bit as you go down. The spray, I think, is going to be the biggest problem that these drivers are going to face out there today, because with just as much speed as they're going to be carrying around this circuit, the spray is going to be big, the rooster tails are going to be quite high, and visibility is going to be quite limited.
Engines are firing here at Autodromo Nazionale Monza for the fourth round of the CrowdStrike Virtual Racing League. I'm Kyle Heyer, joined by DJ Clark. The pace lap is about to start. We'll get about 5 kilometers of pacing before we turn them loose from behind the safety car and then go racing for 40 minutes. Two classes are Pro and Am. Of course, they are running for overall position as well, but points given out by category. The white number backgrounds are your Pro drivers. The drivers with the red number backgrounds are your Am drivers. Of course, there is a pretty fierce battle in that Am category as cars are beginning to pull away. You see the rooster tails behind them, all that spray kicking up that you mentioned, and wipers back and forth already.
Yeah, certainly starting to do that, and because of these changing conditions, watch for a lot of drivers here. I don't know how much weaving we're necessarily going to see, because they're just going to be trying to feel out the track a little bit, and with the temperatures dropping a little bit as a result of the rain, I think the biggest concern is going to be warming up those brakes. So look for a lot of sort of stop and start momentum here as they go. That I think that's going to be the biggest thing here that we see from these drivers.
All right, let's roll through our starting lineup here. Row number 1 for the start will be Josh Stafford in the number 93. Arup Kumar will roll off alongside him, followed by Daniel Kavanaugh and Vlad Dola in row number 2, DJ.
In row 3, it's going to be Kavanaugh, followed by Vlad Dola.
Following them, it's going to be Nicholas Sommer and Aaron Puckett, Alexander Turtan and Bill Clark, Rasmus Larson and Martin Lassen wrote number 5, Jason Acton in the number 11th spot in the number 204, Christian Cords Anderson in 12th, Bill Strobel, Andy Edwards, Ryan Small, Simon Peterson, Mads Verbeek Schmidt, Mike Jensen roll through rows number 6 through 9, and then of course it's Julius Tan, Alex Aso, Marion Coleman, Corey Gilbert, Will Thomas, Mark Warfield, and Dante Lansnaster that will round out the rest of your field. Sounds like Bill Clark had some issues earlier, but he is rolling now. He only got one good qualifying lap in and then had to sit trackside for the rest of it. So he was able to rejoin. But that is your 24-car field. I don't think Dante Lansnaster made it to the grid. So we're lined up and about ready to get packed up and paired up for our 4th of 6 rounds of the season. Spa-Francorchamps next time, DJ, then we finish out the season at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca.
I can't imagine 3 better circuits to be able to finish our season on. It's going to be some absolutely incredible stuff, and as they work their way through here, like I predicted, not a whole lot of weaving here for these drivers, but a lot of brake dragging. You want to get those brakes up to temperature when you slam onto them going down into Rettifilio there to make sure you are able to extract the most performance out of those brakes. Look for a couple of drivers maybe trying to make a good move, maybe trying to get a little over-aggressive, but I think caution and predictability is going to be the name of the game here on this first lap in the rain.
See the brake lights flashing, the hazards on the Acura NSX GT3 with Josh Staffen. Rain lights on if drivers have them equipped, or at least a button to equip them. And you mentioned the brake dragging, and you see the tail lights on the Acura lit up. BMW there running second. That's Arup Kumar dragging his brakes as well to get temperature in these things. Remember, as soon as this race is over, we're going to go back to watching the 24 Hours of Daytona and rooting on CrowdStrike Racing in the LMP2 categories. Make sure you tune in and catch George Kurtz and crew going for a victory in class in the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona. For now, though, we're getting set to go racing in the CrowdStrike Virtual Racing League. DJ, final thoughts before we go green. This is an unknown. We haven't seen this group race in the rain just yet.
No, we have not. It is all about unpredictability here and trying to find consistency in the midst of an unpredictable circuit. That is what it's going to be. I think the fastest drivers around here may not be the one that are able to go fastest from point A to point B, but that are able to consistently put in the same times lap after lap. All right, field rolls through Parabolica at a very slow speed. As soon as they cross the start-finish line, they will be turned loose for 40 minutes around Autodromo Nazionale Monza. Josh Staffen in command in the Acura NSX GT3. And the field 25 cars strong, 12 rows of GT3 cars to the stripe. Green flag, we're racing in the CrowdStrike Virtual Racing League. Turtan with a phenomenal start of the 88 to the inside, 3 abreast to the inside of Nicholas Sommer. Now the 31 pulls clear, and it's a storm, not only in the sky, but down to turn 1. Oh, almost a little bit of contact there as they continue to be 2-3 wide, coming down into Rettifilio for the first time, waiting to see a little bit of wiggliness there under the brakes. One car off into the barriers behind.
That was Aso in the 25, and it's a big stack up down here, but no contact beyond just a little bit there with the 88 car. Otherwise, we're free and clear, and Staffen leads, Kumar second, Kavanaugh third, and we head down to chicane number 2.
Everybody through and clear here. The spray not nearly as bad as I was anticipating, as drivers are going to be able to hold up here behind, but those 2 BMWs leading the way, the 3 BMWs indeed. Big look down to the inside there, and that's going to be a cut course for Kavanaugh.
Yeah, and they'll let the 5 get on by. And while the spray isn't quite there yet, I don't think the grip is like what it was in qualifying for these drivers. They're going to be experimenting in the braking zones, especially to see how far they can push it before the track really gets wet. The track is not that wet right now. It will be shortly, so you get what you can, but don't put yourself off track like we saw with the 94 there.
No, certainly. It is much better to be cautious, stay on track, and keep going around here rather than risking trying to go for a big move here early on. But Daniel Kavanaugh trying to see if he's able to get anything on Arup Kumar here coming down to the Variante Ascari. I think pretty smartly backs it off a little bit and indeed is actually able to get a better line through the corner, I'd make the argument.
One of the things you got to be careful of right there, you see the slide from the 94, is the curbing. The painted curbing here is going to be very, very slippery as the water accumulates in the grooves curves and crevices, so you want to stay away from the curbs if at all possible, and maybe stay off the racing line once the track gets a little bit wetter. Battle for second between two BMWs, Kumar Kavanaugh, and then behind Vlad Dola and Alexandru Turtan, who's up a whole bunch of spots on the start, chasing him down. He's in the green, though. That's slippery out there.
Oh, that's very slippery. That painted bit of asphalt is not going to have a lot of grip there. You want to try to keep your car on the black stuff as much as possible, as here we've got a little bit of side-by-side between Turtan and I believe that's Puckett.
It is Puckett. He actually had the best lap of the race so far as there's a battle for second. Here comes Kavanaugh down into turn number 1, and he's got it over Arup Kumar. Nice clean pass down into the first corner.
A very nice and clean pass, able to make it work there as they go. Now just trying to see what is going to be able to play out here at this point, as Kavanaugh is going to be able to try to stretch his legs up ahead and maybe close in on the back of Josh Staffen.
Here's Christian Cords-Anderson in that purple Acura. To his outside is the 204 of Jason Acton. They almost touched together through Curva Grande. Look at this battle. Two supercars side by side at 160. Now on the brakes, who's braver? The 42 is into the second chicane.
Oh, some gutsy stuff playing out there for all of them as they try to be able to sort themselves out. The McLarens, they're farther back in the field, able to get through nice and cleanly, as right now Cordes-Anderson in that purple 42 Acura trying to hold on there. A couple of varying lines coming down into the first Lesmo.
Nicely done. First couple laps complete without any major dramas up front. Staffen pulling well and free and clear of the rest of the field. We've seen that race after race. The battles will be in behind. Vlad Dola, remember, he's trying to lead and run away with the championship in the AM category. Bill Strobel is the one chasing him down, but Strobel's stuck in 9th right now and deep in traffic. Has to navigate by Clark, Larson, Puckett, and more to get to Dola.
Yeah, he's got to try to work his way around here. You saw a little bit of an offline there from Bill Clark up in front of him. That's going to cost him just a little bit of time as now they fly down here into Parabolica. Not really an overtaking zone necessarily, as indeed you see Bill Strobel there backing out of the corner just a little bit. He's going to try to take a narrower line down through the final corner and really square off that exit to get the biggest blast that he can.
And now following the Audi on the front straightaway, here's where the slipstream is going to matter, and even in the rain here, out to the left, and he's going to take this run and drag race the Audi into the first of the corners here at Monza. Neck and neck, Audi versus BMW.
Here they go. It's a battle of the late breakers there. Looks like Strobel was able to beat in the braking zone, but Clark going to be able to hold it out just a little bit and barely able to get ahead is Bill Strobel. That was some impressive stuff.
Really good stuff, but that brought in Sommer into the mix. That's the number 11 Audi right behind the 24 of Bill Clark. So now it's a 3-horse race for 8th place. All line astern here heading to chicane number 2.
And astern as they go. Sommer certainly knows
trouble
he's got
ahead. Turtan off.
Oh my goodness, there's the 88. I'm not sure what happened, but I can only assume getting things wrong in the wet.
Here's a look at it heading down into the second chicane. He was ahead of the 31 of Puckett and was way off in the runoff area. I wonder if there was some contact or if he just got it all wrong. Here they go down into the braking zone, DJ. Let's see what happens to the 88.
Comes down into the braking zone here, jumping on the binders. Oh, that's a tap from behind. That's a pretty massive tap from behind.
Yeah, and the 31 got hit after that by the 478 of Rasmus Larson. So that was just an unfortunate series of events down there for a couple of drivers. Turtan drops down to 9th, 10th, 11th place now. And here comes Christian Cordes-Anderson and more contact into Ascari.
Oh, and Cordes-Anderson is going to get the worst of it there. He's going to be pointed the wrong way around as they come through the famous chicane.
And no way out of it. He's going to have to back up right into the racing line, so he escapes into the gravel. Can he get back rolling? Oh, that's pavement there, thankfully. And he will get back rolling and carry on and continue. But some dramas here on this lap, and now for third. Kumar under fire from Dola.
Yeah, Vlad Dola very, very aggressive there behind. He's going to look around what will be the long way around if he sticks to that outside. A little bit of a fade from Vlad Dola trying to protect that outside line. Now are we going to see a late breaking mood here from Vlad Dola? Arup Kumar doing everything he can do to try to hold on to that line, but Vlad Dola down to the inside, able to make it work just as pretty as you please. Move Dola up into P3.
Yeah, very well executed there, and I think Kumar kind of conceded that position as well. Once he knew he was going to get passed on the right, he just kind of let him get ahead, tucked in behind, and see if he can repass him down into the second chicane. Big run here to driver's left, and he's going to attack.
He's going to be in full attack mode here, looking down to the inside. He's only got about a half a car length alongside. There's going to be the merest of contact there between the two, but Dola is going to be able to hold that out for now.
Better run, though, for the number 8 of Kumar. He's going to try it again into the first of the 2 Lesmos, and that time the 5 backs out. There's some more contact as they trade positions once again.
And Kyle, that is a very, very gutsy move to do. Normally coming down into Lesmo 1, that is an absolute one-way street, and the fact that they were able to take that 2 wide, I want to give some credit there to Arup Kumar of recognizing that, or Vlad Dola rather, of recognizing he needed to back out of that.
Yeah, great calls there, but this is a fantastic fight. We're not even 10 minutes into this race. These guys are racing like it's the last lap. Dola pops out of line into Variante Ascari, but that time can't get completely alongside, so he'll have to tuck back in line, try it again on the front straight with a slipstream.
Yeah, and I think he will. Look for him to try to back up Parabolica here to really, really get the best blast that he can. And unless my eyes are deceiving me here, Kyle, the other big bit of news that we're seeing is that the rain has stopped falling.
Just about to mention that the wipers were still going, but there was nothing left to clear for a handful of these drivers. Dola right back on the bumper to the inside of Kumar again on the front straightaway.
Now, my only question here is, did he make that move a little bit too early? For example, is there going to be a chance here that Kumar is going to be able to pop up behind in the draft and maybe steal a little bit of it? Arup Kumar certainly doesn't think so, but here we've got another wrinkle coming into the mix. That's one of the Acuras coming out right now, and it looks like Vlad Dola, though, is going to be able to hold the line coming down. That's contact,
yeah,
though.
He pushed him into turn 1 there a little bit. They got back on line. That was the 42 of Christian Cordes Anderson coming out of pit lane. They were 3 wide for a moment. There was contact into turn 1, but they still remain nose to tail here. So here's Sommer and Clark side by side exiting the first chicane as well.
Audi trying to be able to fight here a little bit on Audi right now, trying to see if Clark is going to be able to get the run that he wants through the Curva Grande. I think he's going to be a little bit too far back to really have a good run down into Della Roggia. But as we continue to watch Dola and Kumar just going at it, hammer and tongs.
This is a fantastic fight between the 2 BMWs right now, laying it all out on the racetrack. Dola back in, trying to execute the Lesmos here a little bit better than the number 8 of Kumar. Now into the second Lesmo, takes a look. Does Kumar overdrive? He does not, so nose to tail again. But this is a fantastic fight, one of the best of the season.
Absolutely one of the best of the season here for these two, and it doesn't look like it's going away anytime soon as we ride on board with Vlad Dola here coming into the braking zone for Ascari. Vlad's going to be a little bit too far behind to make a move, but it looks like he was able to at least get a little bit alongside there of Arup Kumar as Kumar got a little bit offline, and Dola going for the attack here out of the exit of Ascari.
Just dragged the right side tires in the gravel. That slowed him up a little bit. He's got a push now. Here comes the 42 of Cordes Anderson trying to get his lap back from these two, so that'll throw a wrinkle into the mix as well. The track is drying. There is no more rain, and now the grip levels will begin to come back up.
We'll be able to come back in, and there Cordes Anderson breaking up that fight a little bit. I got to think if I'm Vlad Dola, I'm not too happy about Cordes Anderson trying to get involved in all of that.
Pit lane for Kumar.
I wonder if that's a tire change for him. If he's thinking about coming into pit lane, his only problem is it's not during the mandatory pit stop window.
No, so, well, he's going to hit pit lane. And we'll see what happens here. I see green on the ticker, though, DJ, in regards to the pit stop, so he should be good on the mandatory pit stop window. If the light is green on the ticker, then they're all set as far as their pit stop requirements go. So that's going to change things up a little bit, and that means that you can just go nose to tail without having to make it stop down pit lane. But, of course, as you mentioned, maybe a tire swap there if they chose the wets at the beginning.
Well, I think that's probably what they're coming down for, and I think with the wet weather being in play here today, I think that's part of the reason why we've seen that go out the window there, that mandatory pit stop window, so that's probably the result of that. But if that's the case, good call from Kumar jumping on down in. It does look like this track is certainly starting to dry out relatively quickly, and if that's going to be an undercut for Arup Kumar, it could play out in spades for him. Yeah,
you can still see a little bit of a sheen from the headlights on the asphalt surface, so it's not completely dry, but certainly not completely wet. And if the track is drying, or if there's really not standing water, then the wet tires are going to overheat very, very quickly, and you're going to want to put slicks on almost immediately. The challenge is, once you put slicks on, any water, whether it's standing or not, is going to be a huge challenge to navigate.
Right, and so I wouldn't be surprised here, for example, if we see Josh Staffen maybe wait another lap or two to come down into pit lane, as indeed the number 93 is going to continue on here at this point. But for the other drivers, especially if you're locked into a pitched battle, I completely understand that decision to come on down into pit lane. We take a look here at Turtan a little bit farther back down in the field, trying to close down on Sommer up in front of him. And don't count out Octon behind them in the 204. He's one that could come into this battle as well.
Turtan trying to make up some ground as the car ahead of him, and they're all going to hit pit lane this time. So that group will head on down and switch back to slick tires. They're going to see a weather forecast that will help them make that decision. So I'm going to assume that there's nothing else on the horizon, that we're going to be free and clear of precipitation for the next 30 minutes or so.
Yeah, I think that's probably a fair assessment here, as Josh Staffen, as we said, had enough time in hand to really wait to come out onto the slicks just to make sure everything was together. And he may have actually started the race on slicks.
I was going to say, he just ran his best lap of the race, DJ, so if he was on wet tires, he would not be doing that, a 153.932. So I think that he started on slicks and was just very cautious. The track really never got wet enough that having wet tires would be a massive pace advantage, so he wouldn't have fallen down through the order very quickly, especially if he's got experience. So I think that was a great call if that was the case.
Yeah, I think it was as well, and it goes to show the talent of Josh Staffen being able to keep everything together and being able to drive like that on slick tires. That is no easy feat. Make no bones about it, being able to continue your way around there. So certainly a very, very impressive drive here from Staffen, as he's now going to bring the car down through Parabolica, get onto the loud pedal. And yeah, I think you're right, Kyle. I think he did not start this race on those wet tires.
We're going to keep seeing the lap times improve if that's the case. No, he's going to hit pit lane, so he was on the wets. That was just a really phenomenal lap on tires I presume would be overheating at that stage. So he will come down to pit lane and put dry weather tires back on. And all right, that's a change of events. So let's go back and see who else is battling here in the field. Strobel, here's Larson in the 478 and the 24. Bill Clark, this is for position here.
Yes, it is, and these are drivers that have made their pit stops here at this point. You can see that pink Audi up ahead. A little bit of a run from the BMW, but a little bit of a snap of oversteer there. Going to try to catch it back in around Larson, doing everything that he can try to do to put some pressure to the back of the Audi. At this portion of the track, you're not really looking at overtakes.
Where'd he go?
You're looking at pressure. Something happened to Bill Clark. He's around.
He is around, and he has spun the car on corner exit. Here's a look, and just got loose. Maybe a little bit too aggressive on the throttle. And again, the track is still damp. It's not like it's completely dry, so slick tires might be even a little bit on edge right now. So Clark is going to learn that the hard way.
Yeah, he certainly is. Some damage there, it looks like, to the front end of that Audi. And yeah, just a combination there, I think, of a little bit too aggressive on the throttle, as well as you mentioned, just being a little bit too early to be that aggressive on the dry tires on a drying track.
Here's Acton chasing Josh Staffen. This is for position, although I don't think the 204 has made his pit stop yet. So he's still got that to worry about. In behind, you see one of the Mercedes that's on track at the moment. And Will Thomas is that Mercedes, the Sun Energy 1 car, the first generation Mazda, or Mercedes, I was thinking MX-5 for some reason. Mercedes AMG GT3 running 18th, and I think he's down one lap to the race leaders and has a drive-through penalty to serve as well. Not exactly sure for what, but that's going to put him down even further.
I would imagine that drive-through probably being issued automatically by ACC as a drive-through penalty as a result of incident limits. You get 3 warnings, and then if you draw over again in terms of off tracks, it will give you a drive-through penalty. So especially at a track like this where it's very easy to pick up those off tracks, whether it's cutting a chicane or running things a little bit too narrow through Variante Ascari, I've got to imagine that's how he picked that up. Martin
Lassen and Nicholas Sommer fighting for 12th right now on track. 2 Audis going nose to tail. Lassen a little offline, and Nicholas closes the gap here through Lesmo 1.
He's going to close the gap, but he's not going to find an opportunity to get the pass done here through Lesmo 2. But a big wiggle, and that's the one way to get on by.
Yeah, Lassen, similar story what we saw with Strobel, where the track is just still a little bit slick. bounced over the curbs, got the rear tires up and spinning. This is a moment when, carefully modulating your traction control settings might be useful. And you saw right behind him, the 24, Bill Clark, almost ran into the back of him. So traction control settings, pretty critical to be dialing in right now, DJ, but even that won't save you at the worst of times.
Yeah, very true. And let's not forget the other thing here about this Audi in particular, as well as a couple of the other cars in this field. The Audi is mid-engine, which means that it has great rotation. It's got a great balance of the car, but it is prone to a little bit of over-rotation, and especially in these changeable conditions, you can find just that little bit of a wiggle coming into something much more fearsome. Now, in contrast to that, the BMWs that we've talked about a lot over the course of today, those front engine cars, they're going to have a little bit more weight over the front, and they're not going to want to rotate nearly as much. So in these changeable conditions, the BMW's got to be feeling quite good.
Yeah, but the mid-engine platform also extends to the Acura, and Staffen, with the experience he's got in various conditions here at Assetto Corsa Competizione, he has got this dialed in and is now sprinting away. Now I'm curious to see what his best lap will, or this current lap will be. His best on the wet weather tires in drying conditions was a 153.9, and this time through we're going to see what the slicks get him on a similar track surface, and that lap time was a 154.8, so a little slower actually. So I think the track is still coming back to us here.
Yeah, it certainly is at this point.
Sorry, DJ. I just got an update from the team on board the 93. More rain on the way. They have elected to go with wet weather tires again on the 93, so that explains the lap time being almost the same.
All right, so Staffen clearly just coming down into pit lane, thinking he was going to take those slicks, and then the team and he making that call at the last minute to be able to put those new wet weather tires back on. Now, the problem he's going to have to deal with here is he's really got to nurse those wet weather tires in this drying track condition, because if he does not, he'll burn them up too quickly, and any advantage that he'll get in any grip that he'll have in the rain will be eaten away by those tires literally just rubbing away.
Here's Ryan Small in the 666 car. Don't believe he's made a pit stop, and he must be still out there on wet weather tires and trying to outlast, because, again, if you stayed on the wet weather tires, there's no reason to pit. You're good. So if the rain comes back, this will be a very smart decision by the 666 car.
Yeah, it'll be a very heads-up decision there for them. The question is when is that rain going to come, and how long will it stick around for? Those are going to be the big two variables that they're going to have to worry about on the team for this 666 machine.
So about halfway through this race, 20 minutes complete. Josh Staffen leads the way in Pro. Ryan Small leads the way in AM. In terms of our AM battle, remember coming into the day, the point situation for the AM class, it was Dola over Strobel. And Strobel right now following Dola just a couple of seconds back. So we'll keep our eyes on this. Strobel's back about half a, 20, 30 car lengths. So it's not over yet between these two, but there's still about a 20-point differential there in the standings. And then Lassen and Turtan, we already saw the dramas that they had, but Turtan back ahead of Lassen, at least for the time being.
Yeah, at least for the time being, as it does look like here that Strobel trying to maybe make a little bit of a move here on Vlad Dola. That's going to be the two of them going side by side here down into Ascari. Strobel going to be on the inside and gets the move done for now. I thought there was going to be a little bit of a fight back there. Excuse me, that was Rasmus Larsen, not on Vlad Dola. There's still 7 seconds up the road, but Strobel able to hold that out over Rasmus Larsen.
Yeah, really good job there to get that done. And there's still progress to be made for Strobel, but at least he's keeping the points as tight as he can while following. And Alexander Turtan, we mentioned him as, wow, look at that 478 of Larson. Throw it down into Parabolica and try to ride the rim here. Turtan, remember his spin earlier, he's doing a nice recovery here. Still has a way to go because I think he was inside the top 5, but he has not made this day any worse than it already was.
No, he certainly hasn't. Just doing a well job to be able to keep his way along here as Turtan that you see following behind. And I've got to commend him for being able to carry on as he is. Obviously, that big hit earlier to still be running up in the top 10 is no mean feat, and it is a very good drive. And he's got a real potential here to pick off 2 more positions up in front of him if Larson and Turtan continue to battle the way that they are.
Yeah, this is Strobel leading Larson here, and they have continued to run very closely nose to tail. That time Strobel sprints away from Larson just a touch between the first and second chicanes. But Turtan would love these drivers to battle. That's 2 for 1, as you mentioned. And still being a little tentative over the curbs. We haven't seen drivers attack these as aggressively as I'd think. I wonder how tight, again, the track limits here in Assetto Corsa Competizione, generally a little looser than some other sims, but I think that second chicane in particular must be a little tighter than I'm used to, because I have not seen drivers attack those curbs as aggressively as I'd expect.
Well, I think it's a little bit of a tale of two things. I think they're worried about track limits, and I also think they want to spend as little time going over those curbs as possible, because like we talked about with that painted area on the outside of Parabolica, the paint on the curbing there actually dispels water, so it gets very, very slick there around the outside of it. And so if you spend a lot of time on the curbs, if you're really aggressive with them, you're kind of asking for a little bit of loss of traction. So I think that's what drivers are being careful of.
Here comes Larson again, 2 drivers left on Strobel. There was a stricken car that was trackside at Ascari. I think that was Mike Jensen's number 331. Here comes the crossover, though. Contact through Parabolica.
I just timed that one a little bit wrong. That was a brilliant move for him to want to try to do that, but Turtan just timed it wrong, or Larson rather just timed it wrong a little bit. Turtan the one who's going to be sitting back and loving to see that contact, because that means it's going to be a better position for him.
Look at the run he's got on the 478 of Larson. In the brakes, though, bails out. Spooks Larson, though. Larson's too deep in the braking zone. He gets it woed down. But you could tell Larson was looking in the mirror there at that incoming Lexus and almost outbraked himself.
And that's exactly what Turtan wanted to have happen. He wanted to put that pressure to the back of him and try to force an error out of Larson. He got it. It just wasn't quite enough to make it do it. And now that he knows he's going to be able to live in the head here of Larson.
Oh, he's going to be wide here at the second chicane and loops it.
And proving my point exactly. Oh, as I think that was contact on the rejoin as well, but that is all because of the pressure applied to the back there from Turtan. That is all that is down to.
Yeah, he tagged the 31, leaving that zone, and he actually did spin the 31 around, so they've gotten back rolling. And now look at Turtan chasing the AAA to Strobel. He's dispatched one of the BMWs from a self-inflicted wound, the other still on the chopping block here.
And he's going to take a little bit of a fade here down into Ascari. I don't think he's going to try to go for the move. No, he's not, but he's doing the same strategy that he did on Larson, just making that Lexus look huge in the rearview mirror and trying to force him offline. But look at what's starting to gather up on the windshield here at this point, Kyle. We've got more rain.
Raindrops. I wonder if that had something to do with the 478 missing the braking zone down there at the second chicane. Oh, look at the 88. He's going to miss the braking zone for Parabolica. They crash.
Ooh. Big contact there, and that's going to be Bill Strobel who gets the worst of it. He's going to get forced off there as a result of that, and the AAA's going to have to gather it all back up under him.
Yeah, it's coming down hard now, DJ, and that spooked a couple of drivers in the braking zones. That happens so quickly within a lap. Here's the 31 of Puckett trying to rebound a couple positions here on Alexandru Turtan, and the braking zone into turn 1. How brave are they going to be on the slick tires here if they're still on slicks?
It looks like Turtan was brave and just brave enough to make it work, absolutely making it work to perfection there to be able to get around Puckett and be able to hold that at bay.
So now the question is, what tires are everybody on? You could assume if they pit, then they are likely on slicks right now. But now the rain, it's still coming down, but it doesn't appear as hard from this angle. You go trackside and it's coming down pretty hard here, DJ. So the challenge is on how much rain is coming and how long can you hang on at whatever given tire you're on.
Well, this is where you have got to be absolutely in tune with your car, and as a driver, you need to know what the car is doing. If you're losing grip left, right, and center, come down into pit lane, maybe get those wet tires and hope that it's going to play out for you. If you feel you've got enough grip to make it work, I think roll the dice and don't come on down into pit lane. But we're going to have to see. We won't have too much time here to find out, and one driver who looks like they are going to be coming down into pit lane, Arup Kumar.
Well, look at on the ticker here, disqualified, DJ. Don't know why. But that is a big deal when it comes to the championship for Arup Kumar. Remember, in the pro category, it is Josh Staffen leading by a bunch, but Kumar was third in the standings. He's going to lose a ton of points today to Matt Geffeller, Aaron Puckett, and more.
Yeah, he certainly is. Not entirely sure what precipitated that for Arup Kumar, but that is certainly very, very unfortunate. As now we check back in on Ryan Small, as he in that Ferrari is under attack here from Daniel Kavanaugh.
This battle for second overall. Here comes the 94 around the outside. Makes that look very easy and just jumps right around him through Curva Grande. 13 minutes to go. The rain is sailing down on the track now, and everybody's just going to be trying to cling on to whatever grip they have. Here's Sommer and Turtan fighting for 7th.
And we just keep calling Turtan's name here as he continues to slice his way through the field. Going to send it deep down into the first chicane. Going to be a little bit of contact there between himself and Somar, but Somar's going to be able to hold it on for now. But I think Turtan's going to get a good run here coming through Curva Grande.
Yeah, he's on it right now, trying to recover those spots that he lost. As far as where he is in the championship, he's another AM-class competitor. Turtan came in 1 point behind Martin Lassen. He is outperforming Lassen right now. That would put him to 3rd. Look at all the rain on the windshield, though, of the Lexus. He can hardly see without the wiper going.
And if you are on slick tires here at this point, you are absolutely dying contact there with the McLaren.
Don't know exactly which McLaren that is. Is that Schmidt in the 37, perhaps? No, that's Edwards. This is for position. Andy Edwards here. Oh, look out! The 11 car in the wall right across the road into the 88 and the 21.
And that is all a result there of not having those wet tires on, just losing grip as they go. My goodness gracious, everything coming back to bite here. Turtan able to carry on, but drivers are losing grip left, right, and center with this rain absolutely pouring down.
It is coming down harder than it was at the beginning of the race. Even Staffen on wet weather tires is driving significantly slower, DJ. The final 15 minutes of this race going to be veiled in chaos as everybody searches for grip around the racetrack. Andy Edwards, that was the car that was involved. He is going to have to reset, race over for the number 21.
Yes, he is. He's going to have to come back down into pit lane there. The damage too much on that car here at that moment. Vlad Dola, though, rides around in 4th place. He's going to try to pick up a position or two. And I've got to tell you something here, Kyle. I think you need to come down into pit lane to get a set of wet weather tires. If you don't have them on the car, the conditions are just too treacherous here.
They certainly are. Turtan's got some damage on the nose. He's going to stay out. So we'll see how he fares in the final laps of this one. He's currently scored 6th. But Josh Staffen out in front of Daniel Kavanaugh. Kavanaugh was a second faster than Staffen last time by, but 27 seconds back on the timing and scoring. He'll need a lot more than that to run down the 93.
Yeah, he certainly will. And remember, we do have that report that Staffen is on wet tires here, but he was out on them for so long. I've got to think a lot of that tread is burned off, and so he's not going to be getting the full grip that he needs out of those tires. The one thing I would say here, if I were Staffen, though, is I would maybe consider coming down into pit lane, as he knows he's got the outright pace to be able to beat Kavanaugh, I would think, and so he can maybe make that work. As there we take a look at the very damaged front end of Bill Strobel.
Yeah, nursing it around in 10th place right now. There's a ton of debris between the Lesmos from that sign that Turtan took out, so drivers will have to navigate around that as well. There's one car coming out of the pits. That was Larson, or excuse me, this is heading into Parabolica here. This is 11th, but who knows what drivers have for grip right now, what tires they're on. Everybody's just searching for any semblance of stick they can get from their tires to the road.
Well, and look at that
Josh
line.
Staffen.
Staffen's off. Oh my goodness, Staffen has fully worn out those tires. He just completely missed the braking zone there for turn number 1.
So even the leader has had some problems now as we go back live and pick up Staffen again heading into the second chicane. Last time by a 56.4, it was a 57.1 for Kavanaugh, so Staffen's still making okay pace, but obviously the grip level's not quite there.
Yeah, he has just got to be very, very careful and make sure that he doesn't have any more problems like that. Back up his braking zone, really do everything he can do to just focus on driving here at this point. And there you can see that debris strewn across the racetrack through the middle of the two Lesmos.
Yeah, right in the middle of the racing line. It's been cleared by cars running through it, but Staffen was able to kind of thread the needle there. So that just goes to show you how challenging it is. Turtan into pit lane here. Probably a little late, I would think, with 9 minutes to go, but certainly if you try to stay out, you're not going to make it to the end.
No, and I think that shows good heads up from these drivers, just recognizing that they're not going to be able to make it at the end. I think anybody that's out here on track trying to be able to keep everything together on slick tires is going to find themselves in a huge world of trouble.
Bill Clark and Martin Lassen have picked up penalties. Is that the leader? Is that the points leader? That is Vlad Dola, the points leader in the AM category, crashed.
Oh my goodness gracious, the Lesmos are the flashpoint here today. Everybody running into problems there. He's got to be a little bit careful as there the Acura works its way on by, able to keep things through nice and cleanly, but still very, very sketchy running as he runs over some of that debris.
That car is absolutely junked. The nose of that thing destroyed. Bill Strobel is running in 8th, so Dola has got to get this thing repaired or nurse it to the end if he doesn't want to lose some of the advantage he's got. Now you can see the rooster tail starting to kick up. It is as wet as it has been this whole race here, DJ, in the last 10 minutes, and if it wasn't chaotic enough, this is certainly adding a new element to this race.
Yeah, and credit here as there, that purple number 42 of Cordes Anderson goes off through the Ascari chicane, and that's going to be a problem there for him. Vlad Dola trying to limp that car along as much as he can. I think that was Puckett that was able to get on by him there in the number 31 as he ran.
Just 7 minutes and 57 seconds to go. Josh Staffen is running a 1:58 flat, which is 5 seconds slower than his best lap in the wet earlier, but still running a little bit quicker than Daniel Kavanaugh in 2nd. So he should be okay on pace, but again, it can all unravel so quickly. I'm just looking for times that are dropping in the red on the relative here, but Simon Peterson running 16th. Everyone just trying to limp it to the end here without having any big issues.
Yeah, that is the key here. Limp, coast, just survive to the end. That is what all drivers are hoping to do here at this point. And you could see there as we watched Daniel Kavanaugh just how far off the apex he was going with no grip there around the circuit. Vlad Dola right now in pit lane, presumably getting repairs on that number 5 machine because that thing took a hefty lick.
Yeah, he was ahead of Bill Strobel. Strobel's in Ascari now, so this is going to be a battle for your AM Class Championship lead. Of course, Strobel was 20 points back coming into the day, but if he can get ahead of Dola here and then have a really good round at Spa and even at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, Strobel could see this as a turning point in the championship.
Yeah, he certainly could, and Strobel's just going to have to try to focus on in. I would even consider here, if I was Strobel, if I'm on slicks right now, because of that difference, maybe thinking about coming down into pit lane. He's not going to do it, but I don't think that's the craziest idea. Well, looks like Vlad Dola is going to be back out and rolling here at this point, as there is Dola coming back out of the pits, and now we've got a battle for position, but I've got to think Dola took wet weather tires after getting some of those repairs taken care of.
Yeah, but how damaged is that car? The nose still looks pretty unrepaired, so I'm sure he'll be lacking in some pace. I guess the good news is that top speed isn't going to get you a whole lot right now. When you get to the corners, you're going to struggle anyway, so we'll see if he can recover, but Strobel wasn't able to fully take advantage of that owing to the massive lead Dola had over Strobel before then. In this final 5 minutes here, we are getting down to the wire in CrowdStrike Virtual Racing League round 4 of 6, and the rain has certainly introduced a wild ending to this one.
Yeah, they certainly have. This is just about as crazy as you could imagine it to be here at this point. We ride on board with Josh Staffen coming up against a little bit of lap traffic, and I've got to think here, if you are Staffen, that's got to be a little bit of a concern as well, because that's just going to add another level of unpredictability. How is that car going to handle up in front of you? Yeah,
and especially if they make a mistake and crash, where are you going to go? Leave yourself an out. You have a big lead. You can afford to slow down a little bit and be cautious around lap traffic here. 5 minutes are going to be about, what, three laps maybe to the inside here of the 21 of Andy Edwards, who was involved in a crash earlier. Blue flags waving. Staffen completes that pass and moves on, but it's certainly not a guarantee that you get through there without any dramas. Here's the pass that we're waiting. Dola gets passed by Strobel, and that was for what will end up being the championship lead.
Yeah, it certainly will here, and I've got to think that I have to commend Vlad Dola for getting back out on track, but that car is just absolutely in limp home mode here at this point. Even Strobel having a little bit of a problem there. You can see that's the second lap in a row that he's really struggled getting the power down coming out of Parabolica, just showing you the treacherous conditions out on the track.
And the puddles are beginning to form. You can see the increase in spray here. See on where the track gets shinier. As you go through those puddles, the wheel's going to kind of get wrenched out of your hands. You have to know how to correct it at slow speed, high speed, low throttle, low brake, high brake, all those scenarios through your mind here. Very slow mechanical grip. You have so little of it. Trying to accelerate on curbs. This is a huge challenge for everybody, leaders included.
Yeah, very, very much so. Nobody is safe from the conditions here at this point. But Strobel just doing a good job to keep his way ahead, and I'd imagine here he's trying to build a little bit of a gap, if he can, to just buy himself some breathing room on the last 2 laps so he doesn't have to push too hard ahead of Vlad Dola. But Josh Staffen here looks like he's been able to dispatch with that lap traffic, and he's going to come around here with, I believe, 2 laps to go at the line.
Yeah, it's going to be 2. It could be 1. We'll have to see. We're going pretty slowly here. About 10 seconds off pace from what we'd normally expect. So we'll see what Staffen gets around the line too. But in terms of battles on the racetrack, it is just a full-on survival state at this stage.
Yeah, it really is. It is just see what you are hopefully able to get and able to pull out here as they continue to go around. Staffen does have a little bit more lap traffic in front of him now that he's going to have to contend with, but as he comes to the line, I think it's safe to assume here that this is going to be 2 laps. 2
laps left here at Monza for the round 4 of the CrowdStrike Virtual Racing League. Staffen plows through a puddle on the front straightaway here as we go back to another battle. Dola and Rasmus Larsen through Ascari. Larsen is to the left and has that pass complete.
Yeah, and Larsen doing a good job to just piece his way up through the field here and be able to take every point that he can. Vlad Dola falling back down in positions. I do not envy his position right now. Driving a wounded race car such as that in changeable conditions, it is not going to be easy.
Yeah, just trying to limp it back, and again, he should end up with hopefully a top 10. I don't know that he's going to get run down by anybody else. Jason Acton is a little ways back. He can see him up the road, but 2 laps is not that long. Acton, though, last time by a 57 to Dola's 206, so maybe he will get there.
Maybe he will. We'll have to see. Again, 2 laps to go here. Acton starting to close in on the back. Yeah, and there you can see just those wounded cars up ahead as he tries to piece his way on through. Has to take a little bit of an alternate line to get around some of the lap traffic, and that is going to be Vlad Dola now up ahead of him. That could have slowed down Acton just a little bit, but I think with the damage that we're seeing from Dola, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Aston Martin's going to be able to get by him and take 9th place away.
Certainly not. By the way, 5th place, Mats Fabregas-Schmidt in the 37. 8 seconds off on this particular lap. I think he had a spin or a slide or something last time by, so he's dropped down the running order just a touch. P5, though, we haven't really talked a lot about Mads today, but he's quietly crept in there with that very loud-looking car.
Yeah, he's done a fantastic job, just slowly but surely working his way through the field, taking advantages of others' misfortune, and it's been a calm, cool, and consistent drive here for the number 37. I want to commend him. It's very, very good stuff. Is there that move between Acton and Dola already playing out on your screen?
Yeah, just a minute. Dola needed 1 fewer laps for that to happen, so he's dropped now down to 10th place. And the next driver will be Christian Cortez Anderson, who is all the way back in, I think, the 2nd chicane, so he should be good. Josh Staffen picks up the white flag, though, here. 1 lap around, and he's just praying for the checkered to fall and end this.
The good news here for Staffen, though, is he's been able to dispatch those 2 lapped cars in front of him, so now it's just him and the road up ahead. He doesn't have to worry about any sort of craziness happening and anything throwing him off his game. He's got clear road in front of him. He has just got to focus on the grip levels on this track and trying to manage that.
Denson and Clark, this is a battle for position for 12th place. Give Clark the position. He's had a couple of issues today and managed to bounce back. Same thing with Jensen. Neither will get a top 10 today, but I think both will be happy that it didn't end the way it could have.
Yeah, I think you're right about that, but I want to commend Bill Clark there. That move around the outside of Lesmo 1 in the rain, that's not an easy thing to do, carrying that kind of momentum around the corner. Very, very impressive. Bill doing a fantastic job as the clock hits 0 and Josh Staffen works his way through Lesmo 2.
He has just been phenomenal in every round this season. Of course, he's got a ton of experience here in Assetto Corsa Competizione, but regardless of that, he has been the dominant force. He's won every race so far this season in the pro category. But today, it wasn't as easy as it has been. He had to fight changing conditions, but it was the quick call to go from slicks to wet tires on that pit stop that he outlasted the dry weather and came back to him with the rain later in the race. So that could have saved his race day, that quick decision there to keep an eye on the radar.
Yeah, I think it certainly did, and we know the pace that Josh has got. He may have still been able to come back and fight on from that, but nevertheless, that heads up certainly playing into his hands here today, comes through the Parabolica for the final time and makes the race to the line.
Josh Staffen, 4 for 4 in the CrowdStrike Virtual Racing League Pro category. The number 93 Acura NSX GT3 victory lane again in the Pro category. And this man, Daniel Kavanaugh, in the AM class, DJ. Great job today in qualifying and in the race. Kept the nose clean all day, and he's going to come back and pick up the win in AM.
Yeah, he certainly is, and, you know, had to get his elbows out there a couple of times, had to fight for it now and again, but a very impressive drive from Kavanaugh to make everything work. He's going to come through Parabolica right now, try to see what he's got working his way around that Audi, and just very, very cautiously getting onto the throttle here, coasting the car back home, and he will take a well-deserved AM victory.
And in second in the AM class, how about Ryan Small? I don't think he ever came to pit lane. He just put on wet tires at the beginning of the race and just kind of lasted through that dry stint and brings the 666 home in second in AM. Great run.
Yeah, great run for him. A very, very heads up to be able to do that as the smoke bombs go off around the circuit. Yeah, very, very impressive for that 666 and the Australian driver. So we wait for Austin Puckett now to cross over the line, the next driver to finish.
And here comes Puckett across the line. That is second in the Pro category. And then third in the Pro category is going to be Bill Clark in the number 24, who again had a rough day today, but made it back to the checkers. And will come home 11th overall and third in class. That's going to basically finish up all the changeable things here on this final lap. We had a little bit of attrition kind of towards the end of the race here, DJ, but what a race this was. I love having wet weather in simulators. It just makes everything so much more unpredictable. We don't see it a lot because it is a challenge both mentally and physically for the drivers, even in the sim environment, but it made this so dynamic and so fun to watch.
Yeah, it really did. I mean, you know, just a 40-minute race like this, but absolutely thrown for a loop as a result of the rain, made this by far my highlight of the season. An absolutely incredible run for all of these drivers, and I want to commend our leaders up at the top of the field, Staffen and Kavanaugh included, for both of them being able to get these cars around to the end, because that was no easy feat.
Certainly was not. In just a moment, we'll take you back and have a look here at the finishing order. There it is on your screen. Staffen, Kavanaugh, Small, Puckett, Schmidt, your top five. Another driver that had a really good run, Mats Fabricus-Schmidt. Didn't talk a lot about him today, but just had a very phenomenal, solid run. Snuck up in there in the top five in the McLaren. And for all the dominance that the BMW's had in qualifying, look at the top five different manufacturers.
Yeah, it goes to show you that sometimes what we predict in qualifying is not what comes to pass in the race itself, and that certainly does change things around there. But an Acura, BMW, Ferrari, Aston Martin, and McLaren up in the top five. Very, very good running indeed.
Awesome stuff to look down the rest of the order there. A couple drivers that didn't have a very good result. Sommer in the number 11 Audi down the order a little bit. Arup Kumar disqualified. I believe it was for a pit road speeding penalty that did that. Must have been pretty significant to get that penalty. But Andy Edwards, we saw him have issues in that crash in the Lesmos. But all in all, a very entertaining race. And we're not quite yet done with the season. We've still got two on tap. The next one, February 11th at Spa-Francorchamps. DJ, that's one of my favorite GT3 racetracks in the world.
Yeah, it's you can't say enough about Spa and GT3s. They go together like peanut butter and jelly. It's absolutely fantastic to be able to have our cars let loose upon that circuit, and it is one that I have had circled the entire year long. Oh,
and another one you could circle is a track on your coast. That's WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. That's March 18th. That is the final round of the season. The AM Championship in particular is going to be very spicy, as that, of course, with Gola having issues and Strobel getting by, that's going to close that gap a little bit. We'll talk more about that on February 11th, but that's going to do it for round number 4 of the CrowdStrike Virtual Racing League. Tune in to the 24 Hours of Daytona and catch George Kurtz and the CrowdStrike Racing team vying for victory in the LMP2 category. Best of luck to them. We'll see you next time on February 11th.